Thank you so much for watching this during not lesson time. This is just to do the best to make use of the time we have before your exams. To be covered in this PowerPoint is literally the beginning of option B of your musculoskeletal anatomy. It's just the start of it. So structures of the different type of cartilage and how do we get to cartilage? What are the cell types involved in maintaining bone structure, so osteoblasts and osteoclasts, as the cells that break and remake and remodel bone on a constant basis. The Haversian systems, which is the basic unit of bone structure, let's call it that, a bit like the nephron for the kidney. So that's literally the internal unit that you need to be aware of. And a little bit of a look at pathology, as in what illnesses and treatments are available for a few of the conditions. Specification references, as always. Embryology is a somewhat exciting field of study. If you wanted to go on YouTube and see if you can find, for example, frog embryos where you've got initially your one ball of cells, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells, and the divisions continuing. A bit like if you want to go back to what we did in component 2 with the formulation of the morula and then formulation of trophoblast and blastocyst. Once you look at the inner cell mass, and that is starting to keep dividing and dividing until it folds inwards on itself, and boom, already you've made the nervous system. If that folding inwards continues and you end up with cell layers flowing in and flowing on the outside, you will eventually form 3 different types of cell layers. Now, if you're looking at something like the mesoderm, that is responsible for all the muscular and skeletal tissues forming. The endoderm will become most of the digestive tract, and ectoderm most of the skin and outside layers. So that's already the basic body plan made. From core concepts, you should still remember the 4 tissue types. We had muscular, we had the nervous, we had the endo and epithelial layer, and then we have the connective tissue. Connective tissue being all your bone, cartilage, and all your blood cells that are being made with that. You should kind of remember passively that you had some central cells and they're just secreting an outside protein matrix. That is for bone and cartilage alike. You've got some inner cells that secrete protein fibers and throw those protein fibers everywhere, mostly collagen, but others as well, to then kind of stabilize that structure. So what is cartilage? You will probably know quite a bit about the cartilage between one bone meeting another bone inside a joint, but we've got various other structures. You should remember from the lungs that the C-shaped cartilage rings are there to keep the trachea open and keep it from collapsing due to the pressure differences. Various other places, your nostrils, the pinna is your outer ear. If you've not heard of your eustachian tube, that is the one that's connecting your middle ear to your throat. That's the bit that allows you to pop your ears if you've got pressure differences when you're going up on a mountain or on a plane or diving deep down into water. It is not as strong and solid as bone is, so it does bend back to the original shape. You can break cartilage, you can tear it, and there are various bits of surgery where you can actually repair it surgically. And there are 3 different types that you will need to be aware of. Cartilage is made up of the actual cells that produce the extracellular protein fibers and those fibers themselves. So the chondrocytes are the cells themselves that secrete the collagen and the elastin, and the chondrotin is basically the overarching name for the proteins that are secreted into that matrix. The word lacuna is literally for the spaces between all those many cartilage proteins. Now, cartilage heals extremely slowly. There is no active blood supply, so anything reaching those chondrocytes has to diffuse, and diffusion through quite a tight net of protein fibers, that takes time. So the healing of any cartilage injuries, that happens rather slowly. You also have no active nerve supply to the cartilage itself. Weird enough, we are going to hear later on that within solid bone there's no nerve supply either. It's the periosteum that's the most painful part if you are having a break or arthritis. It's the outermost layer of the bone that actually has that rich nerve supply and hurts like hell apparently when you break something. Right, Three types of cartilage in a nutshell. One that's particularly soft and wibbly wobbly and allows some flexibility. One that's particularly hard and withstands your entire body weight, and then sort of the in-between consistency. Right, let's start with the weak one, the hyaline cartilage. It's a flexible, soft support of organs, mainly collagen, quite wibbly wobbly. It's also forming during your fetal time while in your mum's womb still, where your bone will gradually then replace that hyaline cartilage. And if you look at the locations here, all the bits where you need flexibility, where you need that softness, so the sternum in between your ribcage, you do need to be able to inhale and exhale, so that does need to have a bit of softness. Problem if you get scar tissue, if your hyaline cartilage is damaged, it is gradually replaced with a bit of more solid scar tissue. So if you remember back to the lungs unit, if you were to have damage to the hyaline cartilage parts that hold your alveoli open or your bronchial tree open, soft cartilage. However, if due to emphysema you're damaging all those collagen fibers, that will gradually get replaced by firmer scar tissue, which means that in terms of elastic fibers in your lungs and having that automatic recoil that makes you exhale nice and easy, that exhale becomes quite laboured, linking back to the whole emphysema thing. Going over to your toughest, your strongest cartilage. Because of the arrangement, how the collagens, it's still the same material, but this time the collagen is arranged parallel rather than in some weird random wibbly wobbly structure. All collagen fibers are arranged parallel in the direction of the stress, so that if you're having an area where you need to withstand a whole lot of physical pressure, think of your lower spine and the discs and the weight that is sitting on those discs, that they are not squished by all that weight. The pubic symphysis is literally in the front where your two hip bones are linked together. There's a little bit of flexibility there, which helps a minor bit with childbirth. However, that pubic symphysis is firm, it's tough, it doesn't just randomly give way. So you'd need to have fibrous cartilage, white fibrous cartilage, wherever you need that great pulling, that pull and tug stress. The yellow elastic is a little bit of an in-between. You've got collagen and elastin in that one. It is both strength and a little bit of flexible. So your pinna, your outer ear, your entire ear canal. So if you were to now sit there and poke your fingers into your ear, not too deep obviously. Also when you swallow, that little flap that goes forwards and backwards when you swallow, you might as well swallow some air or some spit right now. You can feel that epiglottis moving forwards and backwards. That as well is yellow elastic cartilage, just sort of in between strength. Little summary task, you might as well just give yourself a couple of bits. What is the cartilage as such made up of? How are the fibers arranged? Where are the cells called? And maybe some examples of where you can find those types of cartilage. It's just an idea of how you could sum this all up and double check on yourself whether that's settled. A couple of extra points that you might have found while working with the textbook.